two students from the AA, Avisa Yazdani and Mahshad Darami.
So you're kind of looking at this idea that Avisa and I had to sort of start this new small project, focusing on asking a set of questions from some of the AA alumni from the MENA region to closely understand through their personal story how has the AA education has set their mindset, set their principles, and how it has potentially affected and influenced their professional careers. So we've went through the past 15 years, contacted everyone. Some of them got back to us. And so this interview and this video is going to be moments of their talk and their story about how they see this journey and how they define the roles of, how they understood the role of agency and its effect on that, on their professional career.
From unit to unit and intermediate to diploma, the understanding of agency feeling like you've been tossed into purgatory.
Okay, I would like to just say that some of the people did not want their audio to be presented, so I put my own audio over them with their permission.
From unit to unit and intermediate to diploma, the understanding of agency feeling like you've been tossed into purgatory. And only by figuring out what agency meant to you were you going to make it to heaven. In hindsight, it teaches you that agency varies in relation to context. And in that sense, it is limitless. I never felt an organic and concise progression in my education during my time there. I was often left to fill in the blanks and figure things out for myself. One of the first things our director at the time, Brett Steele, said to us was something along the lines of, architecture is anything and everything. There is no one definition or understanding of architecture. Ultimately implying to us that the architect's role is undefined. I graduated with an MR having never drawn a single plan or section. Some of my year mates who went into architecture as a progression after graduating expressed that they learned everything on the job. I was a student who found her life in research and history, so I did not pursue a career as an architect. I often wonder if I would have ended up working as an architect had I received my education elsewhere. Diploma 4, a faculty member that I significantly enjoyed working with, would be John Palmesino. John was intentional about creating a framework for research methodology, explained the entire framework, and then deconstructed it with us. Each exercise and deliverable had its purpose, and we were made aware of it ahead of time, so that we could approach it with an intentionality that was lacking otherwise. While I did not work in architecture, much of my research methodology was either learned or developed at the AA, because the AA taught me limitless agency and the flexibility it offers me to define my role. I do not shy away from driving the project direction. While I am by no means an Islamic art expert or authenticator, my intimate familiarity with materials has helped me with my credibility. The main motivation was to always legitimize oral history and culture as experienced by its people. I was always completely driven by my want to decentralize the white narrative in largely POC spaces. I genuinely have no issues adapting anything I learned at the AA professionally. I did, however, have challenges adapting the AA to my principles. I think it's safe to say I don't perceive the AA as having one consistent framework, maybe a Venn diagram of various frameworks.
So I guess I was influenced by the AA in every way, and in a way, I grew up there with the AA raised me, I suppose. The Friday lectures, the boy was very important. You'd always find somebody to pick their brains and subject to your troubled mind or your project, and the terrace, of course, and the photo library.
When I came back to Iran after studying at the AEA and working in the UK, I was isolated, and the places I worked at and the people I worked with saw me as a bit useless, I think, and it took me some time to communicate with to be able to articulate what interests me could also be of interest to them. And slowly, I got to know more people in the architectural community, and I was always looking for people who I could work with and collaborate. And then I realised that actually it was artists and filmmakers and writers who were all the brilliant accomplices. AA was such a flexible platform in some ways that you could really explore that on your own terms. And I remember that in my first year, we actually came in a week earlier from the rest of the school because there was an introduction week, and some of Mustafa was going to give an introduction on the AA, how it works, the chairman tell you that, oh, don't worry if you don't become an architect, on the first day of the school. It was a bit, shocking. But as the years went by, I think this just made so much more sense to me, not knowing what you're going to do and really having the opportunity to explore. And it was okay to explore, and it was something that we get to practice every year in the units through the portfolio. So the portfolio is really it's a means for developing a set of skills and tools. When you build up your portfolio, you're really learning how to become a problem solver, how to think, and how to analyze, how to allow you to learn this process. So no matter later on where you are in the world, what context you're in, or what kind of problems we encounter in a project. So I did my second year between 2004 and 2005 at the AA with Peter Salter. It was one of the most amazing years for me in terms of what I learned. And really stressful because you just didn't know what you were doing the whole year. And it was sometimes extremely frustrating to do the questions that you were forced to ask yourself to really find what your project was, because all he gave you was, okay, so you have a field, start designing. And I was like, what is even a field? What am I supposed to do with a field? The fact that you can allow yourself to imagine without any limitations or any preset image, and I have really learned this at the AA that it's okay to do that, and you should do that.
So today I have a slightly different perspective of the school, because I think that it's an amazing place to study. Also, obviously, because of the interactions. Really opened up a lot in terms of really understanding other cultures and different people and different ways of seeing things. I think that a lot of those things actually come out later on in life when you have to reevaluate the things. So the AA didn't teach me how to be an architect. It didn't teach me how to draw like an architect, how to help a student create a project. I think the AA really taught me how to ask questions and how to look at situations and how to understand that every situation is unique, and that a project can start from a mapping of chewing gum on the London streets, and it can go on to to anything. And I think that another thing is, especially in Israel, a lot of people, when they talk about architecture, then they talk about it in terms of a design solution. In the end, in the tables, there's a lot of there are a lot of different agendas, and there are a lot of different points of view. And at the time, the most important thing that came out of the AA is understanding that mapping isn't something technical. Mapping is something that we can actually use to create a series of parameters to turn this very subjective concept that I have into something that subjectively is an experience that people can understand when they're in space.
After my third year at the AA, I explored my interest in social architecture. I took a year out and worked in Palestine refugee camps, primarily focusing on creative work with children using art processes. Upon returning to the AA, I studied with Upon returning to the AA, I studied with Shen and Pascal, who facilitated discussions on political and cultural aspects. Later, I returned to the campus, focusing on spatial change and community development rather than just construction. My practice now operates between the UK and Lebanon, with recent projects focusing on spaces of solidarity for young refugees. Later, I returned to the camps, focusing on spatial change and community development rather than just construction. My practice now operates between the UK and Lebanon, with recent projects focusing on spaces of solidarity for young refugees. One project I remember was called Exchange Platform, which explored sustainable construction based on networks of exchange. It aimed to create new construction methods using limited economic resources, emphasizing community collaboration. Sometimes it felt overwhelming and exhausting, but that intensity also fostered a sense of commitment and passion among students. The AA framework encouraged autonomy and initiative in project development. This approach shaped my professional outlook, empowering me to pursue projects proactively and assertively rather than waiting for permissions.
First of all, agency is a very new word. I mean, talking about its agency from the time that architecture didn't count it. So when architecture became useless, everybody started talking about the agency of architecture. Architecture doesn't have any value anymore, therefore we talk about its agency, because we want to somehow bring it back to where it once was. So at that time that I was at the AA, nobody was talking about agency of architecture, because architecture had an incredible position at the time. At the time, everybody from all over the world was trying to come to the AA because it was a different place. At the time where the chairman was extremely important, Alvin Wojnarowski. Alvin was extremely important in my life as a chairman because of the way that he ran the school, because of what he believed in the way that he invented everything about education of architecture. It was a school that was not following any kind of prescribed curriculum. It was not, there were no modules. Architecture was being taught as a culture. There was no such thing as technology. We didn't have technology because every project, every unit was related to a different engineer, a different set of people. In my case, when I was teaching, I had chosen two of the partners of Obara, and they were basically my technical tutors. So we had technical tutors, which would look at your project just the same way that an architect does with their consultants, is that they would give us 1 hour to go to them and look at our project and ask the proper questions. And if we didn't know how to ask the questions, we had wasted 1 hour of their time, and we would come back completely empty-handed. So the AA taught us how to question in order to be able to go forward. The AA never taught us what the answer was. The AA never said that architecture was a problem-solving profession. Yeah, architecture was not a problem solver. Architecture was problem creator. Through architectural questions, we were actually problematizing our society. We were problematizing issues. We were bringing them to be in the center of a series of questions which would need to be debated. So debate was extremely important. The review sessions were about debates. So I think that the AA, within the 5 years that we were in it as architects, it was not about the profession. It was about architecture as a discipline that questions intellectually. Drawings at the AA were extremely important as a way of writing what everybody calls a narrative today. Where's your narrative? For us, the narrative was the drawing. Whereas with a freehand drawing, it can fail immediately if you don't know how to put things together. So, and it's not a style. It's about knowledge, certainly. And at the AA, at my time at least, we were always working with abstraction. So for me, one of the questions that became very interesting was that how can architecture look at the real condition or the reality of things and then create an abstract condition of that in order for it that when it goes to be built as a piece of architecture, then it becomes another reality. real as a basis, taking it into an abstract mode, which is basically drawing and the way that one draws, and then bringing it back to a real condition as the building, which creates a different reality than that which you observed, has become quite important. And it's something that I'm sure that it's in the back of my sort of thinking because of the way that I was educated at the AA.
Thank you very much. We actually start interviewing by the question of general questioning that what is architecture? And okay, we know that AA has a huge background and very impressive thinking that he actually could change the way that people think about architecture from the beginning. And then it started that how does it change through the time? Because every moment through changing every chairman, they just have some perspectives, some agendas, and they just want to stay somehow in their own. But as I see that through the time, it seems that it changed, and people's understanding, people who actually are teaching or studying as students or tutors are changing. And we just want to see from another point of view and collect these thinkings and see them as a form of collective memory, because I think that before of that we see AA as a history and just think about it as a story, as a line of history. But AA actually wants to think that everyone has an individual thinking, and if you want to think like that, so you must think like individuals. And we just put that viewpoint in and see what is that viewpoint. And we didn't want to just express on the things that we already know. We want to put something that we didn't know, or maybe it is wrong, or maybe it has changed, and see why it is happening. And that's the way that we just try to collect these thinkings to put the question that where A is going to and what is.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.